Help support our coverage with a free account on Privacy, the service that keeps you protected when shopping online. Get $5 to try it now by using promo code QZZ2J. And with Blueberry, the community that gives creators the power to make money, get detailed audience measurements, and host their audio and video. Get a 30-day free trial by using promo code Blueberry004. Well, we have our next guest here. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Dipti. Yeah, doing fine. Great.
Go ahead and introduce yourself for me.
Hi, my name is Dipti Desai, and I am here to talk about a foundation that is being led by Asha Jadeja Motwani. And yeah, and really excited to be at CES today.
All right. So what does your foundation do?
Yeah, so to tell you a little bit about Asha Jadeja Motwani and the Motwani Foundation, or the MJF Foundation. And it's a foundation that is actually a family foundation.
Okay.
It was formed by Rajeev Motwani, and do you guys know who Rajeev Motwani is?
Not a name I'm familiar with.
Oh, well, so if I tell you this, I'm going to give you a clue. Rajeev Motwani was a professor at Stanford in whose lab PageRank algorithm was born. Larry Page, Sergey Brin worked in his lab to create Google today. And his spouse is Asha Jadeja. Rajeev Motwani unfortunately passed away, and today Asha is continuing on with his philanthropic activities and so also his venture capital activities. He was an avid investor, so she's continuing on that. And she
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's always nice to be able to carry on a legacy of somebody if somebody was you know, dedicated to a thing after they passed, to be able to continue to do that in their honor.
And she's doing, and she has certain interests, and we are working on 3 different areas. One of which is exponential technologies, right? Really relevant at CES today over here.
Hugely. Indeed.
Another thing that she's really passionate about is policy changes, and policy reform. Of course, that takes a lot more effort, and because you're really trying to move governments now over here. And the third thing, being a woman, she's passionate about is women leadership.
Sure.
And how can we do that in a post-nation, pan-world kind of effort? So.
Okay. And so what kind of efforts? Let's talk about the tech side of things. It's where we are. Yeah. So, how does the foundation work in that space?
So, a great question. So, you know, we were at the CES last year.
Okay.
And we were walking the halls of CES. It was amazing, right? Because this is literally a product marketplace.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you see so many amazing
idea
products.
Marketplace.
Oh
because there are so many things that aren't products.
If
you're an investor or a venture capitalist, this is where you want
to be.
Especially downstairs.
So she and Vinod Khosla and a number of other investors were walking around, and we're like seeing China and Taiwan and Hong Kong and Japan, Singapore, France, Italy. Where is India? Where is India?
True.
It was not present.
It's one of the things that I've noticed, especially in Eureka Park, is that there's almost no presence from India.
Absolutely. And we have 1 billion plus number of people.
Yeah.
We have millions of entrepreneurs. Economy, we are talking about, our new Prime Minister is talking about entrepreneurs to lead the world, to lead India, to lead the world, right? And we didn't have a presence in CES. That's criminal. We thought we needed to do that.
Sure.
And so she took it upon herself to make it a mission for 2020. 2019 she started. Just 3 months ago she said, we need to be at CES.
Good.
And so I said, okay, how do we make this happen? So she scoured India to find some startups that could be present over here.
Okay.
And next thing we know, we have 7 startups. And she funded this fully, right?
Okay.
She's put in money from the foundation to create this India Tech Pavilion. We did an event at OYO to bring in everybody and bring awareness of the India Tech Pavilion. Everybody that came by really loved this idea. And people asking, how do we join? How do we make this bigger? So we already had traction.
Great.
And it's great. And
That's
it's good
fantastic.
to see that CES made it possible.
Yeah.
And the 7 entrepreneurs that she brought are really also very excited about this because they got They did not have a global exposure before that.
Right. And this is the global exposure.
Yes. Truly relevant. They got, calls from Shark Tank, and they got people from all over the world coming and noticing them and talking to them and setting up meetings with them for the future.
Well, that's fantastic.
That's great. So now what we want to do is that the governments of other countries are actually promoting the presence of the entrepreneurs from those countries at CES.
France in particular.
Exactly.
Oh my God, the French pavilion down there
is
amazing.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah. And I haven't even been down there this year, but I know from the past that the French presence in Eureka Park is insane.
It's insane. So I was talking to them to say, how do we get the Indian government to get involved in our pavilion?
Yeah.
Any pointers you can give?
Yeah. Sure.
And so we want to go back and talk to other partner organizations to see how can they partner with the Motwani Jadeja Foundation and also with the government, bring in a critical mass and convert this from a 7-entrepreneur small tech pavilion that we have, which was highly successful, to maybe a 70-person entrepreneur pavilion that
give France a run for its money.
There you go. I just say that we have a person, and you may know him, who is also very, very passionate. And I mean, I call him an India file. His name is John Chambers. John Chambers loves India. He's very bullish on India. Every time I hear about India, he says, India is at 10% of its potential. It's going to grow to, it has a long way to grow, and I see an exponential curve. He's also very passionate about France too. So we are seeing that, France has a great entrepreneurial ecosystem. India has a great entrepreneurial ecosystem. It needs to get exposed. It needs to get global exposure.
Sure.
It needs to get, and this is the place to be to get that global exposure.
Absolutely. And so, so the goal is to give France a run for its money, to expand the India Pavilion and be able to bring more. Yeah. And I think that's, whatever on international politics. Let's talk about cultural interaction. Right. What the ideas that come out of a particular culture are influenced by that culture. Yeah. And so when you start mixing ideas in an area, especially like Eureka Park.
Yeah. You get from 1 + 1 to makes it 11.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's an exponential effect.
Right. Exactly. Because when some startup from India goes over to the Japanese area and they're like, oh,
thinking about
these are not related, but boy, could they work together. Exactly. And I never would have thought about the thing you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. And that is the energy here that I just love.
It's great to see that. We've seen that in action all through the week with our startups.
Yeah, that's what I've loved walking around is seeing the product manufacturers talking to idea people, talking to designers. It's great to see that interaction. You were saying that y'all are investing in emerging technologies, things like that. What are y'all looking at now? What kind of things are y'all looking to bring up?
That brings me to the second thing that she was interested in, which was like, I mentioned she's looking for women leadership.
Yeah, sure.
And in addition to that, to women leadership, she's also looking at how can we bring about companies in climate change. There's something called Sustainable Development Goals, SDKs, that India has. How do we bring companies in those areas and bring them over here? These are other which are going to impact the whole nation, maybe even the whole world, right?
Absolutely.
So those are the things in clean tech, green tech, in fintech, emerging healthcare. Healthcare is a big issue globally. How do we? So these are the technology areas that we were looking at to bring companies in there. Of course, this is being a consumer showcase. We wanted to make sure that we don't bring in our SaaS companies over here, which are actually enterprise to enterprise.
Sure.
So, but she works with those too.
Although there is some of that.
Yeah, there is,
sure, because there's a reason why CES doesn't stand for anything anymore. It doesn't mean Consumer Electronics Show anymore. It's just CES.
Yeah,
so that we can exhibit some of those and make it make sense.
Right,
yeah, that's just it. There's so much beyond consumer here
that we can do, right? So, I mean, just to touch upon the last thing, we attended CES over here. She's on her way to Davos tomorrow because one of the areas where we want to make global changes we need is policy reform. And so she wants to get involved in policy reforms at the national level. India has its, I mean, being the oldest democracy, I mean, US and India, we have the largest democracy there and the oldest democracy here, right? And democracies are difficult to work on, but you need people to support it, right? So we want to work on certain policy changes and all. For example, an Indian company cannot list on NASDAQ. Did you know that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was aware of that.
That's criminal.
That's
so
insane.
How do we make that change possible? How can we make it a truly global company? How do we, you know, allow them to flourish globally? So those are the things you want to bring to Davos. Davos is happening in a couple of weeks, where the prime ministers of all the countries around the world are going to be there. And they're going to be talking about global issues, right? And so she wants to go there, bring in a woman leadership team, bring in the entrepreneurs, bring in to the global village, and see how can she influence over there too.
Well, very cool. Yeah. If people want to find out more about what your foundation is doing, how can they get that information?
Well, you should definitely visit our website, Motwani Jadeja Foundation, MJF, and reach out to Asha Jadeja, and she will send you the links, and you can post them onto the podcast, and we'd love to hear from people.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing some startups to Eureka Park from India.
Go India.
That's right.
And go CES. Want to see greater interactions in the future years.
For
Bigger,
sure.
better, and more comprehensive, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll have a great rest of the show. I know we don't have much time left.
Yeah. All right.
We're almost there.